up, Fortnite fam? It's me, Zeke, and we're hanging out with our best friend, Sundown. We're doing something a little crazy, Sundown.
Oh, are we now, Zeke? What are we doing?
We are going to make some very bold predictions heading into the finals of the FNCS. We also have our friend Monster D-Face standing by and Shy Wager. Gentlemen, if you want to say hello.
What's up, boys?
Heyo.
Very quickly, within 30 seconds or less, you guys got to tell me your predictions for the region. All right, we're starting with Middle East, Sundown. Give me your prediction.
So everyone else went with Fiesel, Kappa, and Klops. They won 4 of the 5 times, but I think them splitting their trios might have given them not enough practice. So my bet is going to go towards Flame, Prime, and Hunter. Expect to see them challenging towards the top, and can't leave out Fiesel, Klops, and Kappa as well.
All right, Monster D-Face, OCE, go.
Honestly, I'm going to have to go with Geese, Slaya, and Skyla. And the main reason is because Parpy and his trio actually went to NA East, where you guys saw them dominate the region in Week 4. So with that being said, I know the X2 Twins are, kind of one of the fan faves coming up, but I think Geese, Slaya, and Skyla are really going to give OCE a run for its money coming up.
Now for Asia, coming back to you, Sundown, what are those predictions?
So Asia, and I've been pretty adamant about this, how there's been about 5 to 10 teams who are consistently up top. But my pick is actually the WGS trio of Jag, Horde, and QLO. They played over in Europe for the World Cup. They've had the most amount of experience. I think that's what's going to allow them to win out.
Sure. Speaking of Europe, Shy Wager, you're up.
You guys already know who the kings are of Europe, Micho, Mongol, and Benji, but the only trio I think that can start a revolution are Stompy, Chinkin, and Aqua. They have a kind of counter play style. They already have a rivalry brewing with the kings of Europe, and I think these guys will have the edge taking it over at the end of the Grand Finals.
All right, for NA East, Shy, we're going to pick your brain again. Give us those predictions.
So one of the favorite picks to win NA East are Bucky, Animal, and Aspect, but I think the counter to that trio, who's really strong at the moment, is Clicks, Crims, and Spades. They play kind of a rugged type of low ground situation, always getting their win condition at the very end of the game. So I think their type of randomness and weird plays that happen at the end will have them make big plays to win at the end of the Grand Finals.
Now let's talk about Brazil, gentlemen. I'm going to take this one. I'm going to make a bold claim here. I'm going to say the red trio is going to bring it home. Snow, Avalar, and Techno Viking. We've seen Techno Viking. He almost made World Cup qualifiers. Just barely missed out on qualifying. The same for Snow and Avalar. This will be their weekend. They're very hungry for the win. I'm telling you guys, they are going to do it. Now, finally, let's wrap up with NA West. Monster D-Face, give us your take.
I'd be crazy not to mention the trio, Scented, Rex, and Edgy, because they've been the most consistent in the NA West region. But I think another trio that can give them a run for their money is going to be Arkham, Falconer, and Vinny. And Falconer, by the way, the only free agent on this team here in the NA West, at the top of the board, still dominating. So I would love to see them come through and pull it big for the NA West region.
Some pretty bold predictions made across the board from everyone. Sundown, Shy Wager, Monster D-Face, thank you guys so much for hanging out. And for everyone at home, don't forget, tune in this weekend for the FNCS Finals, September 20th through the 22nd. You can watch at Fortnite.com/watch. And of course, guys, we'll see you on the Battle Bus.
Beep, beep.
Welcome back, Fortnite fam. Now, we're going to get ready to hop into some games very quickly, though. Just wanted to remind you guys that Europe, the Heat 1 has been pushed to tomorrow at the same time as Heat number 4. And Brazil has been pushed back 1 hour. So we'll be going into continued and extended coverage of the Middle East that happened this morning. Now, we need 2 casters to get us onto all of the action. And for the first time ever, Monster Defense been very exciting. And it's also important to note, some of these guys are playing out of Southeast Asia as well, so shout out to you guys. Trust me, you're not all just kind of clumped into this region. We get it. It's a combination of a bunch of different types of players and people from different regions of that area. So far, though, they have done a great job.
Yeah, talking predictions as well. I'm pretty sure we have the same predictions of Klops, Fiesel, and Hero Kappa, who are coming out on top right now. We saw them just come second in the last game. So even when the world is against them, even when in all odds they shouldn't be winning or gaining points, second is a big feat, especially with Elims to boot on the side as well.
Yeah, for sure. When I actually did a VOD review over that trio specifically, they had some serious setups, and they were actually landing in the junction area, and I wonder if they're still playing it. I would assume so. I haven't quite seen the early game up there, so hopefully production can kind of look out for us and start us somewhere up north. It'd be cool to see, you know, kind of if they're sticking to the plan from the last time I reviewed them, or maybe I spoiled all the surprises, right?
I mean, the big note about the trio is that they have had 2 partners, or they've had 4 people playing in total. They started with Hero, Fiesel, and Klops. Then they switched over to a guy named Flosa, who's also part of that Alter Ego org. And then now they've gone back to Hero, back to their, you know, kind of natural dynamic of how they qualified in the beginning, how they kept on top of the leaderboards. And it's going to be interesting to see what they learned from the more aggressive style of Flosa, coming back to now the whole strategical, tactical, more launchpad, macro-oriented gameplay of Hero Kappa.
And you got to show some love to Hero Kappa. When we were checking out his gameplay, he was leading in frags, at least in the review that I did. He was really popping off. He was leading the box fights. He was getting the trades, setting up all the exchanges, and that's what you like to see in your trio. It almost makes me wonder, was he just AFK? Was something going on? Like, what's the story behind there? And that's one of the fun things when you're discovering a new region. It's learning, right? Learning about what these new players have to offer.
No, absolutely. Interesting factoid as well. The one thing that we saw was they actually used Hero for one of the open rounds and then switched to Flosa halfway in the in the semis to go to finals. So I'm not sure what these guys are doing, if it's a flexible pick, if it's the first we've actually just seen substitutes being used before, ever, right? Because we did see duos, partners switching off, but now when you have a whole team dynamic, subs come into question. So could it be that type of scenario? Or are they just looking to learn more things? Scheduling issues. It's going to be fun to see how it translates to when we're watching the games.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always so much to learn here. And again, it just kind of goes back to the question, who is going to come out on top? We have a lot riding on the stakes here as far as, you know, our friendly rivalries, as you guys have seen kind of happen here. But anyways, there's our cast of predictions. You can see kind of what's going on. We're going to be leading right into our games, though. So, Klops, Fiesel, Hero Kappa, these are players we've wanted to look out for. We've talked about, you know, Flame, Prime, and Hunter, right, as being a favorite for Sundown and Zeke, people to just look out for. And these are the teams we really want to watch and see if they can continue to pull that consistency throughout the weekend here today. But here's our game. Here's our map. We're loading in.
Starting fresh and early, everyone actually dropping out of the battle bus, just going to an overview of all the changes we've been seeing in Season X. We've got the Meteor, a nice floaty zone over there for people to take beams from and then drop down instantly. We have all these rift zones offering so many things in a risk-reward type of scenario. We have guaranteed pumps and tilted, but you can't build. So it's very interesting to see how people utilize that either early on fights or mid-game. Right now, we're tuning in straight into Retail Row for another throwback, Power versus ASMR.
Yeah, and this is a little bit of a rivalry here. So interesting to see that Multiple teams are contesting for retail. It's one of those power POI spots. Not to, use the word power because I know the team has it in their name. But we're here. This is the place you want to own. And don't forget, guys, we're tuning with Middle East region from Heat 2 Game 4. So the action has been popping off all day long. And we're hopping right in. So this is the early taste of what is going to unfold here as our 32 teams are getting ready on the map.
Yeah, I'm talking about Heat 2 Game 4. There are only 6 games of Heat. There are only 2 Heats in the Middle East region.
Yes.
So this is the back half of games that were happening across the world from us. At the moment, though, we're going to be tuning into, looks like another team at retail as well, popping through. Looks like there's going to be an early Elam getting knocked down. This house in particular as well, the doghouse, kind of connecting the residential and blacktop site, is kind of the place you kind of fight for control. This is actually Greasy.
We're in Greasy. I was going to interject, but you're kind of just on fire there. We actually hopped with another team. We're looking at Greasy here, so you guys know that taco time might happen at any given moment now. And the cool part about that is it starts to heal and regenerate health. And then at the same time, everyone's basically invincible. You cannot take damage during the time, but looks like, a little defense being played here by DSQ and DX, and he gets the exchange here, and that's why they're going to be able to successfully save Nijbe. But again, the dancing happens. Which, by the way, it heals the down player.
Oh, for real?
Yes, so if you're down, your health comes back up. The only catch is if you're down in the storm, no one heals. And then at that point, it could be extremely detrimental. You don't want to go down during that time. But hey, if you're down, taco time can actually save you if you're on the other side. So pros and cons.
One big thing about early and mid-game fights is utilizing down players as kind of, strategic forces in an actual fight, strategic places to actually pressure people to come out of their boxes, to kind of control the way they move. So if you get to a safe space, no more timers there anymore, right? The taco time will come back up.
Hostage for a little bit, just kind of hold them up.
Absolutely.
Use that little bit of leverage to bait out a team, turn that into a winning situation for you, because one of the cons of going on offense is you expose yourself. You're out there, you're vulnerable, you're moving, you're typically not building. And in those situations, that's where you get traded shots. But here, we're looking at Retail Row. This is what we wanted to focus on. NM7, FHD, and Young specifically have been hitting some disgusting shots over the course of today. The heavy sniper we know to be a favorite on a few of these players. Most teams only run with one sniper. We've seen multiple players picking up snipers on this squad.
Yeah, the biggest thing about the sniper as a power weapon, as a win condition type of weapon to make moves off of, when you have shockwaves, you can see right now in the inventory, right? Let's just take this example. You only have 2 chances to use that shock. You miss with a heavy snipe, depending on your heavy ammo count, which gets found in much bigger, varieties of 7, 13 ammo spread around the map. You have so many more opportunities to land that heavy sniper throughout any point in the game. It's more expendable, which means you can play off of it so much more frequently.
That's right, and just taking a look here, Yonks is going to get a nice little power upgrade to the loadout there as he picks up a blue pump shotgun. So the confidence is in their favor. They're actually glancing over at the Black Ops. They're not quite sure. They saw a little bit of aggro zombie movement, from the Fiends here, kind of lingering about, and because of that, they were cautious. They knew a team was here when we first checked in with them. Seems like the coast is pretty clear, and now they're gonna focus on taking out the pylons here.
Yeah, one thing I actually wanted to talk about, we noticed Retail and Greasy coming in, right? We also made that little mistake with the houses. The big thing, though, to note about that, a lot of these house layouts are very similar when you're looking at it inside. And with new POIs, suppose you are a team that goes Retail and it's so contested. Moving over to Greasy and having that similar layout, knowing exactly how to play those buildings, and as well looking at what are the power buildings in the POI. How does that kind of change the way you adapt to it versus a team that's not their monster?
I mean, you absolutely need to know your layout. It's one of the perks of mastering a place and playing off a place for long periods of time. Now, let's just say if things were to just change or something new is to show up, that could be a big issue for some of the competitors. But hey, the best of the best adapt, and someone's going to figure out how to make it work, right?
Absolutely. You get the experience of playing in Retail, apply it to Greasy. You might just get a whole new drop spot, right? Yeah, there's taco time. Hey, that's free shields. That's, as you said, the free utilization of having a knockdown teammate just staying alive. It's huge things you can play off of. We're going to be looking at a Polar Peak team right now. Also a very interesting POI that's been developed kind of in the meta game over this whole season. In the beginning, not many people wanted to land here, not seeing the actual potential of loot, as we did lose the big castle, but gained so much more map space and movement vertically around the map and actual sight lines towards Frosty, towards the cabins at the back, and even Happy Hamlet takes shots at people who are up here from Polar.
Yeah, Polar Peak has always been one of those power spots to hold. You have this super high elevation. You have loads of rotation opportunity. And you can see here, it's been so long since we watched early game. I haven't even seen a team execute a proper kind of float across to big tree like that, right? So these are the small things that I nerd out over specifically is rotations, figuring out how people play their drop spots and figure out their loose situations. Something cool to note, guys, you actually don't take fall damage if you were to fall off a high place with the hoverboard.
You've got all the factoids down, man. These guys.
I play a lot of
tips. Let's go, Monster.
Just something to think about. So don't panic, guys. If you ever want to really make an aggressive dive and push, it's actually a perfect opener to come in on the hoverboard. You are exposed, but you can jump off at any elevation, any height. And if you fail, it's okay. You'll be all right.
That's one thing you also. One thing you also pointed out on, it's actually Heat 1 Game 4 from the Middle East at the moment,
okay.
Which is a whole new slew of players that we're going to be seeing because we were watching Heat 2 previously, so we'll see how this Heat panned out, how the end games kind of differ. Before we saw a lot of top-down shooting vertically, not many people challenging it late at all, a lot of miniguns, a lot of AR spam. Once that 7th zone kind of passed, it was free reign for those people on height. It's just about how many points can you efficiently accumulate. So now we'll see what are some of the other different type of win conditions endgame, Monster, that you've seen in Comp Fortnite.
Hey, I mean, the name of the game is to earn points regardless. You see squads that like to execute zone 6 for high ground and then dominate, right? Put pressure down, dictate the pace of the game. You see other players that tend to kind of hold mid-ground tarp, hold down on shockwaves, and then make big moves towards the tail end, try and secure high ground, right? All of which are risk and reward plays. Personally, I think the scariest type of play style is going for height early. Those players that have the guts to go for zone 6 high ground, you're risking all of your material at the expense of going for elims, which aren't guaranteed to you, and then you're trying to control the pace of the battle, which again, some people struggle, right, in those situations, because if you don't do it properly, the server will turn on you, and now all of a sudden you're losing.
Yep, there's so many teams alive near the end of the game. There's always one that can sense the weakness on height.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're not double tarping anymore. Your metal switched to wood. Here's an opportunity. Where's the spam?
You're not hitting me. So like, now it's time to fire back and set up those countermeasures. And that's one of the kind of tug of wars that these teams and trios face. But here we have Siddig, MS Idij and Rampage here, and looks like they are looking to battle here. So the team that we saw at Greasy here was already rotating out, and in comes the fire. So just exposing themselves, no fear at all, just fearless out in the open, using a little bit of ducking there, kind of trying to naturally avoid some shots here. The shield bubble comes down. Invoke is on a weird position here. And up he goes for the high ground right now, and that's a shockwave. He's going to leave his backside open. He's going to suffer all of his shield right there. It's going to be very painful.
Now, one big thing to notice in this breakdown is on approach, Rampage, Siddig, and M-Siddig all together were doing a 2-1 breakdown at all times. They always made sure there was one person a little bit higher, kind of switching roles to make sure they had that 2-1 split. And you see it in this fight. It's 2 people on a wall on one opponent. Then you have the breakdown of one person supporting up top. Right now, Rampage is in the big fray of the fight. Not sure exactly where his teammates are, but you can presume if he's on a wall, there is a teammate there to respond. Kimmy responds to the bullets by going absolutely knocked down in that state, and now going to be getting siphoned by his teammates. Now everyone grouping together. This is very good use of timing in the fight, because when you're split, you do have a lot of pressure, but there's a lot of risk involved. Now coming back together, if someone tries to peek you, you have 3 people aiming in. It's very good use of splits and regrouping.
Yeah, and something to learn from that battle, guys. If you notice how quickly it ended, is because they managed to just isolate. They isolated the player, they hunted him down, they forced him into a frenzy to build up for high ground, and that was the first pick. After that, the rest of the team just kind of fell in suit, trying to play catch-up to save their teammate. But we've seen a wonderful story of Minzu, Kinji, and Boxfighter Moon all day today. They had high ground. They took second place in the first game we watched, in a crazy turnaround and some shockwave plays that were made towards endgame. But we know they've been making it to the end, and they weren't on our radar previous to this. So to see Minzu, Kinji, and Boxfighter Moon here finally making a little stake of the claim for fame here on the Fortnite competitive scene is really nice. This is one of the awesome things about being able to check out these new regions and give people opportunity.
No, absolutely. This is the breakthrough moment at the moment. We've seen them be really good early game in Happy, but now they have the worst possible zone rotating in. It looks like it's pulling all the way up to the right side of the map, so they will be having a mid-game fight. Very smart use of utility, making sure with Stinks you can actually track where your enemies are through that damage tick through the wall. Now you can see them actually responding after getting that first elim. This is what we're talking about earlier in the day. When you have a Stink, it's not usually used to grief, but to gather info and then act upon afterwards. So now they're full body sending it straight into the box fight. As they're doing it, another two teams come up from the top. It's a huge mishmash at Grandma's house in the middle of the map. A lot of teams should be rotating through here. They might get even more action as Kinji goes down.
That's what I want to talk about. It was the aggression, the fearlessness. Moon actually jumps into a 1v3 battle for high ground build. He held it down, but unfortunately Kinji's going to get traded out here as Minzu was in the low ground trying to figure things out. And now suddenly, because they didn't, pull back the reins and play patient here, they found themselves in another battle, but looks like these things are putting into great work as they catch another small pick there. And they managed to fend off everyone. So we'll see if they can get the reboot card, maybe pull out a clutch save at some point or another. But teams are in shambles here.
Absolutely. You touched upon it earlier where, we're happy to see these early games. And, in comparison to all the late games we always see, it's dope to cast a huge early to end game. One big thing that applies to both early and end game.
In the zone, by the way.
Is timing. And this is a big use of timing right here, right? We do have a minute 14 till the zone moves. You do want to pick your teammate up, but now you're messing with not just one, but two resources. First of all, you're losing a lot of time and positioning on the zone, as well as HP pools coming in. You do have a lot of loot you did gain from the fight that these guys just had, and slurps to tick through, but the stuff you use early to pick yourself up, you will not be able to utilize in the end game. So time is shared across both early and end. It's both effective. We don't usually get to see it used at the end game, but every decision you make, maybe they wouldn't have had that mid-game fight if they were faster off their looting, right? So seeing exactly how they move across the map, how they utilize time, can actually get into where they are in the middle and end game of their gameplay.
Yeah, so they sent one player out to go kind of, obviously get that revive, and then they stood, or they left Moon back behind to, be that presence on the build on the skeleton that remains of what the fight was, so that the team below, is cautious. They don't necessarily, want to move or get that freebie rotation out of there. So the whole team is back. Now they're able to reap some of the rewards here, the loot that remains, and suddenly they're all back in action here. Now with that launch pad there, they are going to be okay to get the rotation, but remember, he did catch a knock, so notice, they just want to go ahead and take a peek. See who's left here. What kind of loot can they still kind of grab up before it's time to go? And it's a short rotation, so they don't need the launch pad either. Looks like they are going to decide to probably go on foot here.
Short rotation, definitely risky, though. There are 65 people alive right now in the circle. Placement is a long ways away. Looks like Xanxus might be the last person in the trio from this fight, or one of the trios trying to move in. We'll see if it's possible for him to actually sneak through on this launch pad. Very patient gameplay there. Hopefully he has heals to come in, but this is the big problem with missed timing and getting in the zone a little bit later than you want. Kinji getting absolutely lit up in the air, going to be launching down, might have to use hard mats early on, which means he won't have them end game. Once again, you see these connections between early and end. Usually you don't get to see why people are in such positions, but these guys took fights. They have to respond with the appropriate materials, and now they're actually turning gears to the offense. I think they noticed this guy was solo right here on the left. They do have a beam opportunity on the launch pad. Hopefully they get it. A lot of trees in the way, though, Monster. This is very interesting to see how these guys are kind of moving around the map to get in the zone mid-game.
Yeah, so far so good. Again, another little buff up to the loadout. When you get that minigun, suddenly now you have the means to put the pressure up. And TR Xanxus is going to fall there as they were relentless on the push. They hunt him down, they catch him down right there, and that's going to be a nice replenish for materials and loot of the sort. And they're big chilling right now. They have
Yeah. I left. I can win. I have a campfire, 5 chug splashes, and 2 slurps. And I have 4 impulse nades. I'm probably gonna win, honestly. God. Wait, who's he spectating? What EFN? I just lasered him. I just lasered Sweaty FN.